Good Friday afternoon, evening, wherever you may be.
Yeah.
All right. Boy, what is taking off? For some reason, my machine is taking off this afternoon. I don't know why. Not
Taking
doing
off,
anything
meaning
different.
working.
Meaning the fan is screaming. This is not an M1.
What can you do?
It's buy an M1. I need to do that at some point. The never-ending saga of will Darren ever buy a
Knowing
new
you,
machine?
you will make a decision around the time M3 comes along.
I really am sitting and waiting till M2 to see what happens at WWDC. It's close enough now, right? There's no reason to not wait for, 2 months?
Yeah, but depends which type of machine you're looking for. Kind of desktop or laptop or what?
That's not why we're here today. Hi, by the way, my name is Darren. This over here is Victor, and we are the co-host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox. And on Fridays, we join up around and start talking about things of the week. And in the moment, we'll be talking about the things that have currently been blowing up right now. Not in a war-type way, but maybe it is. I'm not sure. I'd like to say hello to Ingen. Hello. Sebastian, how you doing? I apologize. I'm not even going to try your first name. Victor,
Ikechi.
Okay.
Or Ikechi, one of the two.
Do we mentor? I do not. And other than what is published through this and the podcast and the books and courses, no, not one-on-one.
I'd love to do that, but simply there is no time.
Yeah, there's no time. No
Sorry.
time. Let's answer this question before we get started, too. What do you think about pair programming? Does it break your preference for async? Does it apply to DevOps? I think it especially applies to DevOps. Because having somebody sitting beside you when you're getting ready to push the big red button is a really good thing.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be beside you.
Logically beside you.
Yeah.
Virtually beside you, yes. But yes, especially, maybe not when you're prototyping stuff. It might help you, especially if you're new to the thing, talking about mentoring. That's having somebody that's been there before. Or if you're both new to Thing X, which I'll tell you my story after a while of what Thing X is for me right now. Sometimes it just helps having somebody else looking somewhere else while you're trying to type. Those kinds of things.
And to clarify, I don't think that working in async does not mean that you're never doing anything at the same time as somebody else. So we still have meetings, for example, which are not necessarily async for everybody and so on and so forth. So it doesn't break. Being async does not mean that you never are in the same time zone with somebody else.
Right. Garen, good to see you today. Get your drink out. Today I remembered because it's sitting right here beside me. Did you even bring one? Yeah. How many years have we been doing this now? And you still don't have your drink? Come on. Okay, while he's waiting, some people have asked what my setup looks like. I'm gonna go full screen, so I'm here, but that's what it looks like behind the scenes in my place. It's a big mess. I just got this camera. It's not even a camera. It's my phone plugged in, and I figured since you walked away, I'd just show full screen what's going on.
Yeah,
So
it looks impressive, to be honest.
Well,
I did not know your setup until today.
Yeah, because I've never had the background camera before. So that's that, and I will go back to us. There we go. So and just ignore the mess. It's going to get cleaned up at some point, maybe. Do you want to go ahead and talk about the thing that's happening right now before we actually get into all the news?
CNCF thingy?
Yeah. Once you set it up, because I've been heads down coding all day, and I have not been online other than to get on this today.
Yeah. In a nutshell, Spain decided yesterday or something like that it's not mandatory to wear masks anymore in establishments, with the option for the owner of establishment to choose to still enforce that rule. CNCF saw that and announced that it's not mandatory to wear masks in KubeCon. People went nuts. with a lot of yelling over Twitter. And now I'm watching how it unfolds.
Just sitting back, watching with your drink, right?
Yes, I'm going to make popcorn after this session and then do it for real.
I'm not going to get into the politics of it. It's not worth it. But if a country has... Now, but here's the key to this. I will step in it this far. If the country has made it not mandatory, that means you still have the ability to wear the mask if you want to wear a mask. Right? Not mandatory
Correct.
doesn't mean you cannot wear a mask.
Correct.
So if you want to wear a mask, that's fine.
You can play devil's advocate in both sides, because there is still the option for you own a bar or restaurant or whatever to enforce the mask. So it's not mandatory by the government, and you can now choose whether it's mandatory or no as the owner of some or organizer or something, right?
Absolutely.
So it can go both ways legally.
Yeah. They've pushed it, it's just basically instead of the top having the lockdown, lockdown's the wrong word for this, but instead of it being enforced here, now they're allowing enforcement down here. Gee, it sort of sounds like a deployment pipeline, doesn't it? To where you start pushing down, where things need to happen. So that's, I'll let you just sort of watch that this afternoon blow up. I don't have time to deal with Twitter. I don't like ever, actually, not just today, but ever. So for the people that are upset, you're welcome to your opinion. For the people that are very happy about it, you're welcome to your opinion. That's how I feel about it. Me, I'm still not getting on a plane yet.
From my perspective, is we can debate, and I think it's perfectly valid to say I don't want to be in a place with thousands of people. Yep. I think it's perfectly valid to say, yeah, I want to do that. But if you are with thousands of people, masks are not going to make big of a difference. I'm pro-mask, just to clarify. But they're not going to make a big of a difference in 4,000 people venue.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into the news. So here we go. So the podcast this week comes out on Wednesday, 6 a.m. Eastern, noon CET. We're talking about the differences between projects and products. And it was all based around a number of things that I just think about a lot. I think it really boils down to, and after I listened to it again this morning, of course I was corrected by Victor numbers of times, but a product by typical nature is you're exchanging money for the software. Would you agree with that, Victor? As a product?
I mean, it could be free.
It could be free, but there is some exchange.
Google is a product.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but you're giving away all your personal information. Yeah, there is an exchange there.
Yeah.
Not necessarily money, except now for Google Apps, which now everybody has to pay for.
Is it Google Apps? Yeah, Google Apps, exactly.
Google
you
Apps.
can get free Gmail, but you cannot have Google Apps, right?
Correct.
Something like that.
Yep. So I'll be paying for that soon. I think I'm doing that either this weekend or next weekend. But anyway.
First half a year is free.
Oh, it is? So they get me through the end of the year, roughly. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you already make the change? Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, it's reasonable.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's not that big of a deal.
I'm
in favor of
$6 a head?
paying for something that I really need.
Yeah. I mean, it's $5 or $6 a month per user. That's not...
Yeah.
That's...
And I think half a year is 50 off, or a year is 50 off. So first free and then 50% off, and then you start paying full price sometime in the future.
Yeah, that's more than fair. I've just been lazy and haven't done it yet. So anyway, podcast this week. If you haven't listened to it, go ahead and take a listen to it. Not right now. Wait until after we're done. We were talking about CNCF a little bit earlier. Let's talk about something a little more joy, happy about CNCF. Kubevirt is now incubating. Now, why Kubevirt? This is where I haven't gone back and compared Kubevirt against vCluster. What's the difference between the two?
Basically, Kubevirt gives you virtual machines instead of pods.
Kubevirt gives you virtual machine instead of pods. Oh, so it's like ESX,
Basically,
sort of.
it's like vSphere in a way,
Yeah, vSphere.
just that it's on top of
On top of
Kubernetes,
Kubernetes.
right? So if you install your Kubernetes on bare metal,
Yeah,
run Kubevirt, you get vSphere-like.
right.
I haven't used it heavily, so I cannot judge how good or bad it is. But
Got it.
yeah,
Kubernetes.
Kubernetes
So-
for VMs, exactly.
So is this basically now saying that all workloads in some way, shape, or form should run on Kubernetes once this graduates,
I mean, that's where we are going.
right? Because if you don't want to go the Kubernetes, the cloud native way, if you will, I hate that phrase, even though we're talking about CNCF. People butcher cloud native a lot. And
No, but think about it this way. Basically, if you have a need, forget about legacy for a second, right? Modern workloads, and you have a need to have virtual machine type of isolation, right? But you still want to manage it with all the benefits of Kubernetes scheduling, failovers, blah, 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 blah. Then, yeah, basically you're just changing containers for virtual machines. It's a bit slower, but there are good reasons why. There are situations where that VM is a better option than a container. Why not?
right. And Ingen says here, Sivo's using this heavily. Did you know that?
Yep.
Okay. Have you checked out the Rancher Harvester HC? Is that L or I? I'm not sure which it is. HC.
ACI, only superficially.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't. So anyway, congratulations to the team at Kubevirt for getting started to going down the road. Because incubating's the first one, right? That's or no,
yes.
Sandbox.
Sandbox, exactly. I mean, Sandbox, you can get to Sandbox. Incubating is when it becomes serious.
Okay, so they've moved from Sandbox to incubating and blah blah. Okay. See, it shows you how much time I actually spend in CNCF and how much time I actually spend in legacy type workloads, even to this day. I am the proponent for legacy workloads. Victor's the proponent for not legacy workloads.
No, I'm not proponent of non-legacy. I just have more fun on non-legacy.
Well, I know,
so
I understand
I'm trying-
that.
That's where I'm trying to put myself.
No, I get it. I get it. There actually wasn't that much news this week, so I saw this in some one of the few times I was on Twitter this week. Podman Desktop Companion. Somebody was having a cow on Twitter about you don't need Docker Desktop, just use Podman because it's open source.
Yeah.
It's true, but why would I use Podman over what do we have now? Rancher Desktop and
Rancher
Docker Desktop.
No good reason.
Yeah.
Simply Rancher Desktop swooped in and took over competition. Not necessarily Docker. I don't think that Rancher Desktop is going to replace Docker significantly, but Podman and stuff, yeah.
I mean, I still have, even since I've rebuilt this machine, I still haven't installed anything on it yet. What should I do today? Should I do Rancher Desktop? Do Rancher Desktop? Okay.
To Rancher Desktop.
See, I'm always building VMs though, so I end up installing everything fresh. I do very little on my machine, except edit videos. But this looked interesting to me, just because, right? So you're not going to go wrong by picking one of the two, I would assume, right? I'm saying,
Yeah.
I'm still counting Docker Desktop there as well, but with the licensing model, not against it. They need to make money. I mean, these are two reasonable options, I think, between Podman and Rancher Desktop.
And also, Docker is also expanding. Docker just announced, I think, recently that now it supports Linux.
Right. I
So
think that-
Podman started from Linux, right? And it started
Right.
expanding elsewhere. Docker finally finished the circle. Now it runs on Linux. I mean, Docker
Right.
Desktop, sorry. Docker
Docker
always
Desktop.
run.
Yeah, because I
on-
saw
on
Brett
Linux.
did that. He had a stream yesterday with two people about Docker Desktop on Linux, which I didn't look at. But see, I don't use Linux as a desktop. I use it as a server. So I just
Me too.
install the Docker engine on it. I don't need Docker Desktop because I have no UI on my Linux. I don't.
To be honest, if I would be limited to Docker, if I could run Docker on my Mac instead of Docker Desktop, I would do that as well. It's just that containers do not work. But even when I was using daily, all the time, Docker Desktop, I never used Docker Desktop beyond the capability to run containers, basically, for creating a VM.
I did a test when they did the initial announcements with the SNCC integration and the ECS integrations. Right, I did that, but that was the only time. That was the only time I moved away from the standard Docker commands. So I don't know. Okay, so Podman Desktop currently beta. I like their site though; it looks good. I like it. I like it.
Starts with dark theme. I like it.
Yeah, they don't appear to have a light theme at all either.
Good. You start, and you might never move to the light theme. That's okay.
Okay. So people weren't here. I typically run certain things in light and certain things in dark. So that means I run the whole thing, the whole machine is light. And then based on which app I'm using dark within the app. Because when I'm looking at Twitter in dark theme, it's way too dark. My brain can't switch that fast. That's just me. I saw this project this week, and based on something that we actually talked about yesterday on the live stream on your channel in DevOps Toolkit, this could help solve some of those issues. So this is called Idem Project, Idempotent Idem Project. It's from the people from SaltStack.
Yeah.
Which was bought by VMware. Right? So what this does is it uses your cloud as the source of truth, not a state file, not anything else. It goes out and actually will create the data for you from your live cloud environment. Now at this point it only supports AWS and Azure, no Google yet. It just seems pretty interesting. I haven't had time to play with it yet. I ran across this, I think, on Tuesday. And
conceptually, this is what I need, really. I mean, I'm not now talking about Idem project. I think that the whole idea of state file is just, we need to get rid of it, right? Okay. There is a state. State is the actual state. Go and figure it out. I don't think that we should, beyond the absolute necessity. So that there is a state in terms like, oh, this is how this maps to VPC that is running there because AWS is complicated. But besides that, yeah, having a live state instead of state on disk is something really, really, really need.
The one thing I will say about this site, you go to documentation, and you got to click to go to more documentation. Then you get to a getting started, but it just never feels like I understand where the getting started really is.
And getting started seems to be the whole documentation.
Yeah, because I don't really get it, but there's two here. Now, they don't also support everything, which I think is actually okay for the moment. You got to start somewhere. You got the basics.
Start with everything. Kind of just making something that works with all the AWS resources, with their completely messed up API that nobody can figure out, including AWS, is a huge undertaking.
Yeah. Let me pull up a couple links here because I've quit looking at the chat. Sorry. We need your jingle. Yeah. Well, I'm going to keep doing those. That's the day job. Let's see. The whole Red Hat Podman ecosystem seems like something else. What else does it bring to the table? I don't know. I think it just gives us an option, if nothing else, right?
Yeah. I mean,
if you're in the Red Hat ecosystem, you might as well use Podman and not use anything else, right?
So that's the thing. It's almost like Apple ecosystem without making parallels in terms of quality. a lot of RHEL products or projects make a lot of sense for RHEL users and not so much for the rest. I'm not. I personally, I'm not in RHEL ecosystem, and being outside, I never saw compelling reasons to use RHEL something over something else. So you kind of need to be within those walls to see the benefits, I think.
That makes total sense. Sort of what we're talking about with the item. You can use Terraform import to get pre-existing infra into infrastructure as code, but it's a bit tricky. And I think that was one of the things here that the people from Idem were trying to say is instead of infrastructure as code, it delivers infrastructure as data. So if you actually had the time to sit here and wait for these typing out things to actually complete.
It's a slow typer. I imagine somebody doing.
Yeah. And then it just shows this YAML, which is fine, whatever. But it's like, I can't scroll it. I can't look at it. I don't have context. Describe, manage, whatever.
It's a bit misleading because the data that you end up with is not really that different from manifests. It's more about the state, I think. I hope. Because when you manage something as data, that's not really much different than anything else, really.
Yeah. Do we only need state files so we don't want to have to depend on the API? The way I think about state files, here's my problem with state files. It's not a problem. State files are only good if everything goes through that state file. If you are circumventing that state at all to do other things, you are now out of sync.
The problem is the same like with anything else that uses state files. The things that breaks easily when you work on it at scale. Like anybody, a single person running tool X that requires state file is going to be very happy with it. Bring 5 more people running asynchronously, doing stuff asynchronously against the same state file and things breaks completely. That's the issue. That's the problem, really.
Yeah. One more here. Oh, this was the other thing that David said. Infrastructure as data sounds like CMDB. Yeah. That's what it is. Seth, what are the topics? We're going through them right now. Just news and stuff for the week. So anyway, that's Idem project. Let me make sure I get here. Okay, so I found this. NGS, it's the next generation shell, yet another shell. There was actually another shell I was going to bring on, and I decided not to because it went so off into the deep end, I couldn't deal with it. But this one was interesting, mainly from a naming perspective. The shell for DevOps.
Okay.
A shell for DevOps.
My attention.
So let's just go down and look at the example. So, all right, so he states the problem. So they're setting up good. Do you want to use Bash or Python if you're doing ops tasks? Well, either one's fine, whatever. But the problem is that going to be completely portable across different distributions? No. Different OSs? No. And that's still even true with Python. You miss one of those dot releases in Python, everything goes to crap. So here's the use case. You as the ops person, probably wondering whether or not this would be a good fit. Here's the use cases. Data manipulation. Got some JSON from API call, and you want to do something with it, extract, modify, shove it into the next API call. Typically, you would be piping, JQing, redirecting, whatever. This, in theory, makes it simple. Running external programs, testing, whatever, right? They're working on an AWS library. And the future is an interactive shell, which is not like from the 70s. I think they're writing this in primarily C.
Rust.
No, C. Yeah, C.
Oh, see, yeah, see.
And that's the other reason why this shell will be portable across all platforms. Because they could do it with Rust too, I guess.
Portable is one thing. I don't want it to be something to be portable across platforms. I want something to work across platforms. And that's where shell rules. I can find shell everywhere. I can find probably bash everywhere. I can find Python everywhere. And I can find the ability to run binaries everywhere. Anything beyond that? So kind of go to a random server that you have right now and try to run NGS over there.
Yeah. Well, it is going to end up, they do have a GitHub action on it, which is actually interesting too.
Nice.
I thought they had the example, that's what I was looking for. So here's all the different platforms that they're currently building for today.
Okay, so it's a binary.
It is a binary, yeah.
Nice.
Trying to find build and run you can even run it inside of a container.
Cool. Is there an example? Code example?
So here's some code examples. So doing arrays, that seems pretty normal, except for this, where I can actually do math inside of an array. Hashes, also known as maps, but not those kinds of maps. I've never understood the whole map thing. It took me forever to get my head around map and filter, and I still don't get it that good. Functions. Then here's how you could create an instance. Well, that still looks like horrible crap. But you got to do the work. You got to do the work, right? And again, nothing against NGS. It's just this still doesn't look. But they're doing everything here other than... Actually, no, they're creating the network. Creating the VPC, the gateway, the route table, the subnet. They're doing everything here that's in... You want to call that 40 lines, maybe?
Yeah, so where are you importing some AWS library there? I'm not sure I get it, but...
Well, no, they've got an in-progress AWS library. That's part of NGS. That's built into NGS.
It's built into it.
Yes.
Now we're talking. Okay.
Yes.
This is... Okay, so kind of like cloud support is built in.
Yes.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yes. And it's interesting how they're using Converge. I like how this is. It's like Converge and wait for it for running. So instead of having to do a wait for loop, now it's just sitting there and doing its own wait for, I guess. Here's describe, build a chunk of host files, whatever. They are currently at, where is it? I just saw it a minute ago. 0214, 16 releases. Let's go back and see when it actually, okay, that's too much. Here we go. It's been around since 2017, so it's 5 years old. Almost 5 years old.
So I almost feel like this is not intended for end users, but intended for others to build. Kind of like this could be powering Terraform, Ansible, and stuff like that.
Maybe. I'm going to install it and try it out just to see what all it can do.
I'm very curious. I want to try it as well.
Okay, that's NGS. Now, we've talked about in the past Gitpod and, oh, help me, GitHub Codespaces. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, did I say that right? Okay. And I found another one, but before I click on it, let's see here. So, not only a shell, but yet another scripting language. Yes, that's what it looks like.
But yeah.
And just don't do what my company did. See, I don't have a problem with PowerShell.
I do. I have a huge problem with PowerShell.
Why?
Because it's
I don't say
that works on my laptop.
If you installed the PowerShell interpreter, it would run on your machine. It'll run on a Mac. It'll run on Linux.
No. Fair enough. No. Great. Fair enough. What I'm trying to say is that it works on our machines. It doesn't work on servers. And for scripting, for me to work, needs to work outside of my machine.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what I'm trying to say. So I'm
Okay.
doubtful about usefulness of PowerShell outside of our laptops. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. If more than half your
scripting
users...
is all about, hey, blah, 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 move it to a server.
Yeah. And I'll agree with this. If more than half your users are Linux and Mac, everything's in containers, it's just another thing. Agreed. That's what I'm saying. It would be a thing you have to add. But if you're having to deal with, let me get to the other side of the argument there. If 50% of your gear is Windows, I would rather use PowerShell on Windows in general than anything else.
But when you say 50% of gear, you're again counting only laptops.
I'm counting anything that has Windows running on it.
Okay. So Windows Server users.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I don't use PowerShell hardly at all. Hardly at all. But it's a fine scripting language for what it does.
It's better than Bash.
It's better than Bash because with Bash, ignore WSL for a moment. Prior to WSL, all you had was Cygwin. And that was hit and miss at times. So at least we had Cygwin. David says, I agree PowerShell in a container changes a lot about the PowerShell scripting experience. Problem is that core has like 300 modules, whereas full PS install has like 2,400. Yeah, this again, you got to have apples to apples here if it's going to work. Whereas we're talking about NGS. If NGS ends up being the greatest thing since sliced bread, then NGS might be the right idea. Anyway, we're talking about let's try to be happy here. Okay. I know PowerShell is a container, but when I'm trying to do stuff, I don't always want to run things in containers. Sorry, not everything needs to be containerized. There, I said it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't use containers much on my desktop laptop.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Pretty rare.
I'm kind of like still stuck in the past, but I go into containers either during development, build, test, stuff like that, deploy, or production. But the things I use on my laptop, outside of running my apps, no containers at all. Might be my fault, so I'm not saying that that's the correct thing to do. Maybe I'm becoming, when you start with something early and then you become old-fashioned right after that.
Or just old. Laptop or desktop based on containers in the future. That means the OS would have to be container-based. So does that mean that we're going to have a Kubernetes desktop? Think Chrome OS for a moment. Could we actually have a Cube OS?
I actually had high hopes for that when Google released that. What's the name of their own machine running Chrome OS?
Chromebook?
Chromebook, yes. Kind of that could run containers, and I had actually high hopes that they're going to continue developing that. But they didn't.
Is that Fuchsia? I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. Okay. Anyway, let's get back to here. Code Server, which is an open source way to run VS Code on any machine, anywhere, and access it in the browser. This has been open sourced from a company called coder.com. And if you want their developer workspace platform, you can go see them at coder.com. You need 1 gig of RAM and 2 CPUs. Hey, my old Raspberry Pi can run that much. I have 2 of them that aren't online right now. I wonder if I could actually boot this to there. Probably not.
Yep, my phone can stuff 5, 6, 7 of those.
Yeah. But anyway, and it's been fairly active. I mean, it's 430 right now.
Nice.
So VS Code in the browser. I don't know that I'd want to run my own. Not just for me. I'm going to use Gitpod every other day of the week.
It's just awesome. Gitpod is really awesome.
How much Rego have you been writing recently?
I don't want to see Rego ever.
Okay, good.
Again.
That's what we're going to talk about. Reposaur allows you to audit GitHub data using policies written in Rego. Big sigh. You sounded like my puppy. Like when he's content, he sighs like that. But when you sigh, it's like, you got to be kidding me. That's what your sigh means.
I don't like using things that even after serious usage, I still need to consult Google for absolutely everything. That might be speaking about my lack of capacity, just to clarify. So it might be me.
Yep. So here's one for if description is null, if the regex doesn't follow pull request titles. And that's actually pretty cool. If you put in a pull request that didn't match the title right, okay, that's nice.
But this is the thing, like the thing you have highlighted. How many people understand this without Googling?
How many people understand regex without Googling, period? Forget it that it's coming in Rego. Yeah, it just...
Yeah, exactly. Kind of, I don't understand this. I would need to Google it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But I guess we'll see how this pans out. I think, last release was yesterday. It's a fairly new project. I think 7 days ago is the oldest. So it's about a week old. Why Rego? Why did you do that? I mean, for policies, it's the right thing, though, right? If you need a language for policies, is Rego the right answer today? Look at...
I mean, I will exchange readability for brevity any time of the day. I have no problem
reading 10 lines of code versus 1 line of code?
Yes. Exactly.
I'm going to stay with you.
I'm not saying that we should go now crazy and have kind of silly, whatever, curly braces all over the place and stuff like that. I'm not saying going that far, but I would like that example that is their regex match. Mm-hmm. If that would be fine lines, I would be happier.
So this is what I'm going through right now. I'm writing a CLI for something. And it's been a while since I've been heads down coding. Oh, you dropped out with... Oh, you're back.
Sorry.
Okay, there you go. That's all right. So it's been a while since I've been heads down coding. And I've spent, to show you how much I was actually working on it. Victor, you know what time I normally go to bed, right? For most people that don't know it, I go to bed about 8 o'clock. And I get up around 4 to 5. Right, so
just to clarify, it's not my 8 o'clock, it's 8 o'clock
my
afternoon.
8 o'clock.
Not the morning. Okay, cool.
Yeah. 8 p.m. at night. Last night, I didn't finish coding until midnight.
5 in the morning?
No, well, 5 until midnight. Basically, I worked until midnight.
Okay, midnight. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I still got up at 5 o'clock, but, because that's just when my body wakes up. But so I'm working on this. You were talking about brevity. And this thing that I'm writing, I wish I could be doing it in Go and Cobra, but I just don't have time to learn Go. And since I'm an old Java person, I'm using Pico CLI, which has been simpler. For me, it took me about 3 hours to get my head around it, and now it's just been writing code. But now that I'm writing it, I've got lots of files everywhere because it's going to be a fairly large CLI. I could cram it all into single files, but maintaining it would suck. For myself or for probably somebody else that's going to pick it up after I'm done with it.
Now you disappointed all Perl programmers out there.
Perl? Why?
I mean, Perl is all about kind of having 3 lines that represent 3,000 lines in any other programming language.
Look, I am not a great programmer. Never have been. But I can get the job done. And that's what I'm doing right now, is getting a job done that's been backlogged for some other people. Because I need it for something else that I'm doing. So it's like I'm being a bull in a china shop. It's like, Just get out of my way. Let me do my thing. It's not going to be the prettiest code. Do I have test? Absolutely not. The way I'm testing it, build it, did the CLI work? Yes or no? It did? Great, move on. It blew up? Great, make a note of it. Let's move on. Because I'm trying to get it all covered, and then I can go back and deal with the things that broke. But anyway, I went off on a rant there. I've been talking too much recently. I need to shut up on that. Something a little more pleasant. Don't you want to draw on your terminal by using your mouse?
You said the keyword terminal, and I'm already all ears.
So you install it. Now they're saying go install. Don't freak out. There's binaries that you can download. Like there's a legit release. So you start it up and type draw, and then you can start drawing boxes. You can do text, and then saving. It automatically saves it to temp draw text, or you can change it by setting an environment variable. So export draw file, draw, do your thing. Then here's the controls: red, green, yellow, blue, magenta, cyan, gray. Type characters. Or you can say draw masterpiece. Draw.
Man, my daughter just a few days ago got iPad Lite. Now I'm gonna try it.
It's a week old. So again, another young project. Oh dear. Yes, regex is like that, but accrual, yes, that is sure. Started learning Go a few months ago and going back to Java. I yearned for Go now. That's what I hear from everybody. Like some of like the developers you pass pizza boxes underneath the door to, those types of people. Actually, not even those types of people. The people I'm talking about are the people that are inside of a room that have somebody standing outside of their room, but still isn't allowed. The person sending the pizza can't send it directly to the person. They have to send it to an intermediary before it goes in. They are all loving Go. And it's like, I want to, but I need to ship right now. And since
I'm one of them.
Well, and since for what I'm doing, I'm using Graal VM, so I'm going to have a native binary anyway. It might be larger than a Go binary, but it's going to be a single binary. I have no JVM requirements.
But, you know, the beauty of Go is actually, it might look intimidating until you start, but it's very much about simplicity. To me, Go reminds me a lot on C. Now, when you say to a person C, kind of scary, right? But C is actually extremely simple language to learn. Extremely simple. And Go is also easy. It's very easy.
I know it is.
Easy, it takes time to master it to become ninja in anything, just to clarify. So it's not you work with Go for a day and you're an expert. I'm not saying that in any form of way. But to get you going, in a day, you have enough understanding to just do stuff.
Yeah, I know that. And I will probably end up rewriting this thing I'm writing back in Go and Cobra and probably mix in some, what was it from Charm? Bubble tea?
Charm, yeah.
Yeah. I would like to do
Charm
that.
is messed up, so I wouldn't start with Charm.
No, I wouldn't. But Go plus Cobra for what I'm needing to do would be the right thing. It's just a matter of the learning curve for me to learn Pico CLI was, like I said, 2 or 3 hours. Enough. I know all the other constructs that I need, and I'm going. So that's what I need to do. Let's talk about Tilt.
Yeah, man.
I had some people send me this video this week.
Really?
It's like, hey, have you ever heard of this guy Victor? Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, Tilt is absolutely awesome. I love it.
It looked cool. It looked very cool. Is this still new-ish?
It's not. I mean, it's been around for a while, so it's not that new. I mean, it's newer, I think, and I might be wrong than Scaffold. But it's not it's not something that appeared a few months ago. No.
Would you recommend people give it a shot now? Do you feel like it's
kind of between Scaffold and Tilt, let's say? I mean, there are other tools in that area. Yeah, I would choose Tilt.
Okay. Well, that's good. I'm trying to remember, is there anything else? Whoa, what happened there? That's interesting. I pressed the button a while back and it didn't fire off. I'm back. My machine's starting to crank up again. Fans are going. What's it like? You have an M1, right? Is that what you're on right now, or are you on your old
No, I'm
iMac?
on Intel
Okay.
iMac. And I'm kind of like, every once in a while, kind of, I should buy Studio because I really cannot stand the noise. But then there's not enough motivation. I have a good machine over there. But I'm going back and forth. I would really like noiseless machine. That would be really cool.
Do you have the
Not
27
cool
inch?
enough for me to spend, I don't know, 5-6K.
Yeah. But you don't need a studio. This is what I've been going through. I've been doing all the math. And it's my math.
But if I'm replacing my 64 gigs iMac, I'm not going to I'm going to replace it with Studio. I'm not saying that I'm going to do that. I'm just saying kind of like, you don't go to
I don't know.
less. It
That's
can be
what
less gigabytes, but
I've just about landed on the maxed out M1 Mac Mini, not for disk but memory, so 16 gig of RAM. I could look at the entry level the second, not the Ultra Studio, but was it the Max Studio?
yeah.
The Max Studio, which is still, I think, 16 and 32 are the two memories on that one, or is it 32 and 60? I can't remember. Anyway. But I'm still now I'm waiting for WWDC.
Okay, let me predict the future. After WDC, you will be waiting for the next one.
Well, a lot of it will have to do. Okay, so a lot of it will have to do with do we move or not. So I'm like cash conserving right now because we might be moving. So if I can just keep stumbling by for as long as I can, that's what I'm going to do. Again, my primary machine is 10 years old.
I mean, one thing is whether there are good reasons to switch or not. But one thing I learned is that whenever I was waiting for something, then right around the corner after that something comes something else. So it's kind of like a never-ending wait. Kind of there is always something coming soon, something better.
Well, yeah. And that's also why I held on to my iPhone 6 Plus until it finally wouldn't charge anymore.
But, the huge shift is between Intel and Apple Silicon. Now, within Apple Silicon, those are iterations. I don't think that it's going to be, hey.
It'll give you some more cores. Again, I don't think it's going to jump huge. What I am looking forward to is seeing more ARM on the desktop. That's not Apple Silicon.
I don't think that is not Apple Silicon.
That is not Apple Silicon.
Okay.
So Windows, Linux, so seeing ARM come to more devices.
The problem is that Windows is such a fractured thing, and I'm talking about the whole ecosystem, that enforcing the speed that Apple enforced for everybody to switch to Silicon is something that would take infinitely more time for Windows. That's the problem, right? Technology is there. We have ARM for a long time. It's not that nobody can make Silicon-like, Apple Silicon-like something. It's just that nothing will work. I mean, Microsoft had those, I don't remember what's the name, basically running on ARM for a couple of years now. And then all the reviews I've seen, it's great. And then you start using this application and you're completely messed up.
It doesn't work. Yeah. Ingen did bring this up. I saw it and I didn't dig into it. But now there's a new 22, which means now that 16 will go EOL soon. So it'll be 18, 20, and 22. Wait, 18? Am I dreaming? No, 18's right. I'm not a big Debian fan. Other than what's on Raspberry Pi, I'm not a big Debian fan. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I've always been more in the Fedora side. I don't have anything against it, but I just naturally go to a Fedora-based distribution than I do. Maybe because they use Yum instead of, and I understand what Yum means. Because
I don't know.
Yum means
around.
Well, APT means nothing to me, but Yum means, oh, good, I can go eat. That's how I associate it.
That was the other way around, but then I completely stopped using either because we're either talking about servers or we're talking about my machine, and simply I got too lazy to mess with Linux on my laptops.
Yeah.
And when we talk about servers, I don't care. I mean, it's neither. Kind of like there are so many operating systems that are container optimized or whatever the name would be, that I don't want either of those.
You have, based on how you've moved through your career, you are no longer living in the data center.
No.
You're
No.
living inside the cluster.
I'm living in the clouds.
In the clouds. But
still, kind of like, if we would be talking about data center, and if we would be talking containers, right? I understand that not everything is a container. We have legacy. I understand it completely, right? But I don't want to touch those. It works. Don't
just
touch
leave it. Yep.
Even if it's our own data center, there are so many operating systems that are optimized for containers.
I agree. Which you wouldn't need. So Talos, Firecracker, all those in that general area. Let me ask a legitimate question here. How do I ask it? How big is too big for a container? Memory, memory and CPU. No, memory and CPU. So if I have an image that's hydrated into a container image. So I have an image,
okay,
and it's going to be spun up into a container that's now going to be in a pod, right? All up there. How big is too big for that pod or that container within that pod?
I don't know, anything above 20 megs.
So what you're saying is to
for a container image, not the operating system.
No, container image, not operating system. So what you're saying is if the minimum specs, what's the right what are those two parameters? I always get them confused.
I don't know which.
CPU and memory limits and limits and what's the second one? What's the second one I'm trying to remember?
Requests. So limits and requests. No, I was talking about the base image, like.
Oh no! No, I'm not talking about the base image. No, I'm talking about an application running.
Anything depending on your application, man.
So you would be okay with a container requiring 64 gig of RAM and 80 CPUs?
I wouldn't. But if that's what you have...
Why would I need Kubernetes for something that requires that much power?
I'm not even necessarily saying Kubernetes. I'm talking about containers now.
Okay, agreed. But why would I
run
that in a container? It just makes no sense.
It does, I think, because I see container images as a modern version of apt-get.
Okay, I'll give you that.
So kind of like, I build it, my release is an image. If it's going to occupy, it doesn't make sense always to run it in Kubernetes, fair enough. Still, I would run it as a container because the distribution is so much easier and packaging is easier, and so on and so forth.
So all right, so let me stay there for a second. So you don't have a problem, and I don't have a problem. If I need to run something as a container, it's going to be a monolith. But if I'm architecting a cloud-native application, and the requirements for each of my pods are a minimum of 64 gig of RAM and 80 CPUs for each pod, that should not be running on Kubernetes, in my opinion. It could run as a container, right? It'd be no different than me doing yum install, right? So what you were saying earlier, apt install, done. That's fine.
But to justify something like that, we would need to be talking maybe about ML or something that is kind of, we're still, I cannot imagine an application at rest today
requiring that much.
Using that. I cannot imagine that. We would be more likely talking about, I don't know, something that maybe uses half a gig, maybe gig, go crazy, at rest. And then it starts doing something and it's heavy computation or something that requires a lot of memory and you get to 64 gigs. Yes, fine, but not at rest. I hope. I mean, imagine, because at the end of the day, application that just starts and doesn't do anything at rest is basically binary loaded in memory, right? And that binary loaded in memory itself being like 64 gigs. I mean, come on.
We'll talk later because I think you have a meeting. I heard your bell go off a few minutes ago.
Oh, yeah, I have it in top of the hour.
Top of the hour. So thanks, everybody, for being here with us live today. We should be back next Friday. I don't see a reason why not. That's going to be the 29th. Yeah, we'll be here. And wait, we did. So, yeah, no. So next week is just video on Monday, podcast on Wednesday. We'll be back next Friday because we did the toolkit yesterday.
Yeah,
I think it was yesterday.
2 weeks from now.
Again, I've been writing code for what feels like 24 hours straight, and I am not thinking straight right now.
Don't do it ever again.
That's where I'm going to go back to right now. So, thanks, everybody. If you're here with us live, go ahead and give us a thumbs up before you leave. If you haven't subscribed, do the subscribe thing. That's it. Let's call it a day. I need to find all the things. And, yep. And yeah, I think it is a good question for the podcast. We're needing to queue up a few things, so I'll add that one to my list. Thanks, everybody, for
talk about it. And let me quick, without answering. Yes, Windows is exception for a reason.
Okay, there we go. Now I have to pay attention to this. So, Darren, as you're looking at this and going through and pulling the snippets tomorrow, you need to copy all this out and put it into Notion so we don't forget about it. Okay, I'm telling my future self what to do. All right, great. Everybody have a great weekend, and we will talk to you next week.